Hello, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us. You are with Dot, and welcome in to our webinar. I'm Dave Williams, and this session is called Dot's Change Lives, our recap on the things that Dot showed at the CSUN 2026 conference held in Anaheim earlier this month. Before we get underway, I just want to take a moment to introduce some of the members of the DOT team who are with us on the call today. I'm going to start with you, Anat.
Hi, good morning, good evening, good whatever time of the day you're in. Nice to meet you. I'm Anad. I'm the country manager based in the US, and happy to be here today.
Thanks, Anat. Appreciate you. And also joining us on the call, we have Louise.
Hi everyone, I'm Louise. I'm the marketing manager at Dot. So I didn't attend CSUN, but I've heard all about it and I'm looking forward to sharing everything in this exciting recap.
And Tim.
Hello, everyone. It's Tim Hart, the Sales Development Manager here for the US. Looking forward to learning with y'all about where we're going forward with that.
Before we get underway, just a couple of notes to share with you. Dot has released a firmware update for DotPad X that you can download over at apps.dotincorp.com. So if you have a DotPad X, we recommend that you download and install the update. The update addresses some of the performance issues that were reported when DotPad X is in the low power state. So if you install that update, any issues that you may have been experiencing there go away. Also, if you're looking for some fun and practical things to do with your DotPad, I can also share that one of our distributors, AT Guys, has been working on a number of web-based games and a calendar and a bunch of fun things, and you can find all of that over at braille.atguys.com. That's braille.atguys.com. So yeah, go and check that stuff out and let us know how you get on. All right, so CSUN then. It was a really important week for DOT. So this is, of course, the annual California State University of Northridge Conference on Assistive Technology held in Anaheim, ran from the 13th of March this month, and it was an important week for DOT, not simply because we had technology to show, but we also had a chance to really see what happens when tactile technology goes from being kind of theoretical to actually under people's hands. And of course, this was the first time that we were officially showing DotPad X at CSUN. So DotPad X was launched in September of last year. So not the first time for Dot at CSUN, but certainly first time for DotPad X. So it was fantastic to meet with customers and hearing about how folks are using DotPad X in the real world. And there were two standout moments for me that I want to share with you, which I think gives us a real kind of sort of human interest angle. It can get quite dry quite quickly when you talk about hardware and software, and I think it's always important to remember that this technology is about people. The first of those moments was when I gave one of our Dots Change Lives tactile wristbands to a deafblind gentleman, and he read the words on the wristband in Braille and said, "Dots change lives." Well, they sure do. And that definitely struck a chord with him. And then the other moment that will stay with me from CSUN was when a blind couple came to the DOT booth with their sighted child who enthusiastically started drawing in dot canvas, and the blind parents were able to feel in real time his drawing. And they told me how so often at home he's drawing on his iPad, he loves drawing on his iPad, but they don't know what he's drawing unless he describes it to them. And so for them, the experience of feeling what he was drawing as he was drawing it was very powerful and connected them strongly as a family. So the story from CSUN really was bigger than one device. It was really about how tactile access is spreading from beyond not just DotPad, but also to other devices that you will see from Dot in the coming months and years ahead. It's about a ecosystem, but of course at the heart of that ecosystem is the Dot cell that is featured in the DotPad X. And if you have come to this webinar, if this is your first time at a Dot webinar or you're new to DotPad X, let me just very quickly recap for you. DotPad X is a tactile information display, features a 2,400 dot tactile graphics and multi-line braille array, and also a single braille reading line. And both those displays are housed in a portable package that is 11 inches by 9 inches by about an inch thick, charges via USB-C, can connect via Bluetooth and USB, and is portable enough to be carried in a backpack or school bag, weighing just 2.5 pounds. DotPad X is supported by JAWS for Windows, NVDA, and VoiceOver, plus a range of apps from Dot, including Dot Canvas, which is our drawing tool, and access to tactile library. And if you want to know more about DotPad X, that is covered in some of our previous webinars, which we've already shared the recording online, so you can find those. And if you need help finding those, just stick your hand up. The other thing to let you know, we will be taking your questions toward the in about 30 minutes from now, so feel free to pop any question that you have in the Q&A, and we will be coming to you. So the next thing to share with you are the presentations that we delivered at CSUN, and there were two. The first one, Tim and I shared how tactile access runs from Pre-Braille all the way through to data visualization, and that actually you don't have to be a proficient Braille reader to benefit from tactile access. Clearly, you need to develop those pre-Braille skills, discriminating, fine motor, and tracking if you're going to be using tactile access for information. But actually, reading a graph, feeling the gradient of a graph, or identifying a spike in the graph, that is possible without having, advanced knowledge of literary Braille. And there are a number of trials around the world, 4 or 5 trials now, developing the data visualization piece for STEM subjects, and we're going to be sharing some of those case studies here in a little while. The other presentation was about our AI tools, and that really brings us to kind of our first announcement about how Dot is researching how we might use AI for touch. And we have developed a number of prototype apps to really explore what is possible when we use AI to enhance the workflow in making images into meaningful tactile experiences. A question we often get asked here at Dot is, well, can I just put my photos on the DotPad, or can I put this image on the DotPad, or that image on the DotPad? And what we've learned in this research is actually you have to ask the question, what story do you want to tell with your image? And how do you rebuild that story as a meaningful tactile experience? So we were showing 3 tools that do just that. The first of which is Dot Vista. And Dot Vista was an app we developed in collaboration with Microsoft to identify the location of text and images on PowerPoint slides. So Dot Vista takes a PowerPoint deck as an input, and then we'll render that on the dot pad in a series of blocks, objects, showing you the relative location of, okay, you might have text at the top, you might have an image on the left, you might have another image on the right, and then using the keys on dot pad, you can step between those elements, and then if you're on a text element, then the content will be shown on the single Braille line, the 20 cell Braille reading line, or if you have focus on an image, then the alt tag or the alt text will be shown in Braille on that single Braille reading line. So for the first time, as a blind person, I'm able to perceive the layout of PowerPoint slides, and that is the aim really of the Dot Vista app, and I believe that is available in the Windows Store. The second app that we demonstrated was Dot Explore, and Dot Explore aims to gamify learning Braille, so you're able to learn and practice Braille letters and numbers, and also able to play an escape based game with your dot pad. This is very early, it's very prototype, and I think the direction of travel there is to work with you if you are a teacher, maybe you're a Braille teacher, and our aim there is to incorporate Braille learning curriculum into Dot Explore and make that, as engaging and as fun as it can be, to help folks who, really find it quite tricky to get started with learning Braille. And then the final demonstrator that we were showing at CSUN was Dot STEM, that can take an image as an input, and you take an image of a graph, and the AI will analyze that image and can refactor that image so that you're able to ask questions about it. For example, the questions about the maximum or minimum value in the graph. If there are two data sets, for example, where do they intersect? And you can ask the AI to redraw the graph as a series of bar charts or another type of graph. So you could take a line graph, for example, and maybe you find that difficult to perceive, so you might want to explore that as a bar chart. So those were the kind of the three examples really of how we are exploring the role of AI in tactile image production. And I think you're going to see in the months and years ahead in Dot Canvas an increasing number of AI tools that will help you to remediate tactile images, to redraw those as meaningful tactile experiences. So if you have thoughts about the kind of responsible use of AI and how we can better make good use of that to deliver a greater range of tactile images available, because so often we know that as blind people, our access to tactile graphics has been reliant on somebody else preparing that content for us, and AI offers a real opportunity actually for us as blind people to gain much greater access to a much wider range of images in a kind of a meaningful tactile way. So we really look forward to continuing that conversation. And if you're interested in the kind of responsible AI and the kind of the ethics relating to how AI might be used for accessibility, then I would urge you to tune in to the latest episode of our podcast, Raising the Dots, which you can find anywhere you can get podcasts, and that includes an interview with Dr. Cynthia Bennett, who is a staff research scientist with Google, and talks about some of the work that she's doing on ethical AI. Very important topic and something that's very close to our hearts here at Dot. So, moving away from AI, and before we do actually move off software completely, I should mention as well another exciting use case for DotPad announced at CSUN this year was our collaboration with Selvis. And Selvis, as some of you may know, developed the Braille Sense Braille Note Taker, an Android based Braille note taker, has a Braille keyboard, a suite of very powerful onboard apps, and then also access to mainstream apps through the Google Play Store. And Selvis were showing the ability of the Braille Sense to output to DotPad, so that as well as reading multi-line Braille, feeling the icons from the Braille Sense, you can also go into the Braille Sense calculator, write an expression, and feel the graph straight away on your DotPad. So there'll be more about that in the coming months, I'm sure. I'm hoping that we can bring you a webinar about our work with the Braille Sense and the exciting developments there. But now let's turn our attention to hardware. The second thing that I want to highlight for you today is the Nemonic Braille Printer. So we were debuting this printer for the very first time at CSUN, and essentially the Nemonic Braille Printer, it's a label printer. So if you've ever felt, sort of dymo tape, that kind of reel of tape, this printer, it's about, I would say, the size of a small, if anyone's old enough to remember an analog radio, a very small battery powered unit that can sit on your desk or on the counter or at a ticket counter or at a reception. And this printer is designed to interface with existing systems. So whenever you go to a pharmacy, you might get your medication and a prescription. And the idea with the printer is that you would be able to have your prescription printed onto a label that you could then stick onto your medication packaging. So the printer works by, you load a cartridge containing the tape, and that tape can either be plastic or it can be metal. And of course, metal is more durable and more useful perhaps in the built environment for things like seat numbers or signage. The plastic tape you might use on products, on medication, on a label that perhaps is going to be a little bit more disposable over time. So you load your cartridge into the printer. There's a cover on the side of the printer that hinges open, and you load your cartridge in. It'll only go in one way, so it's fairly idiot proof. Even I could do it. And you close the door, and then you're able to, from your smart device or using the API that will be available for the printer, send your Braille to it, and that content will be embossed onto the label. So if you have an iOS device or an Android device, there will be software available for those platforms, fully accessible, of course, with a screen reader, and you can either use your voice or you'll be able to type, and brilliant for people who don't know Braille but need to make Braille labels on a regular basis. And of course there are analog Braille labeling equipment available, but somebody pointed out to me that of course the beauty of the printer is that you can even use this if you don't have a lot of time or you don't have a lot of strength in your hands. You can just boom, send the content to the printer, and out it comes. And the reception has been phenomenal. People were coming to the booth. They wanted to get hands-on with the printer. They really appreciated its industrial design. Really smooth case with Braille, molded into the case as well, and tactile indicators to show you where the buttons are. It's battery powered, recharges via USB-C, and we anticipate will be available later this summer. So watch this space with the Nemonic Dot, which is the Braille label printer, the partnership between Dot and Mango's Labs, which we're going to be telling you a lot more about in the coming months. Final announcement, you'll be relieved to hear, and then we'll get to your questions, of course. So final announcement is our collaboration with our good friends at LG. And if you were lucky enough to be at CSUN this year, LG were showing what we believe to be one of the most accessible kiosk solutions in the world. So this accessible kiosk has essentially a screen reader like interface. So text on screen can be spoken. There is sign language video guidance for somebody who perhaps has hearing loss. There's a height adjustable display that's obviously easier for someone who's perhaps using a wheelchair. But obviously, from our perspective, the most interesting aspect of this is the 12-cell dot module. So in practice, what I was able to do was to walk up to the machine, pick up a chocolate bar or a packet of chips or crisps, as we call them in the UK, and I was able to scan those products on the scanner at the front of the machine and have that information either spoken to me, or imagine I'm in a very noisy environment and I can't hear the speech. You know, sometimes 13 can sound like 30 or 9 can sound like 5. I'm able to read that information on the Braille module that's just at the side of the device. So that was the first time I'd ever experienced Braille on a kiosk, and it really shows you the potential of what can be when we do these sorts of collaborations. You know, imagine a future where you can go into your grocery store and you can use that self-service checkout, you know, irrespective of, you know, your height or your hearing loss or your eyesight, or even take advantage of digital refreshable Braille on the machine as well. So we're really excited about that. So that obviously is a conversation if you work for a business or you know business who provision kiosk machines, then we absolutely want to be speaking with you about how we could roll that out into more locations and really see that making a difference in the lives of blind and low vision folks around the world. So I'm going to hand over to Tim just to share a little bit about some of the trials that Dot is working with partners around the world to find out a bit more about how DotPad X can really make a difference to tactile literacy, especially for people for whom, you know, Braille might not be their forte. Tim?
Yes, thank you, Dave. And the research that is being done by several different institutions, absolutely phenomenal to watch and to keep track of. And we were fortunate to be able to meet up with one of them while we were at CSUN, but we'll go over all four of them. So first one, University of Washington, the CAD Accessibility Research. This is headed up by Jen Mankoff, who is the PI over there, and this was a research project brought to us by Carlos Tejada. And this is a very unique way for us to be able to use the DotPad to create and edit 3D models, 3D images. So this is one that's, you're talking about a highly visual interface that when you're talking about 3D creation, how do we know what it is? And what they are doing is they're basically giving us a cross-sectional way of looking at the objects they are creating, either from the top down or the side view, and allows us to explore layer by layer what that image, what that object will look like. Sorry. And it's absolutely phenomenal. So what they had there was a cup and a rocking chair on display. And so what you see with the cup is the circular shape. And as you are looking at it from top down, you got the circle, and then you'll see the handle as that begins to build out, as well as the shape of the cup. And that was really unique. And the rocking chair was even more. So just imagine a rocking chair and just being able to try to figure out what would that look like in a 3D virtual environment. And just being able to see it from the top-down side view to see the rockers was absolutely phenomenal. So that was on display there at CSUN and was absolutely phenomenal to go ahead and view. Next up is we have in India, the National Institute of Technology looking at how computer science students can use the dot pad in a variety of factors for learning as well as programming in different technical subjects, with the goal for this to be having the individuals find their way into STEM career fields. If successful, this will be able to scale nationally as a inclusive digital infrastructure across India, which, breaking down the barriers for accessing STEM materials. And this is where we'll go and look at the next two that's also going to be in this slide. But this is going to be a very interesting subject to watch out with these 15 students. So next up is, sorry, we have in Paraguay, their public school systems has picked up the dot pad as one of their premier Braille displays to be able to use. So over the next several months, it'll be rolling out the dot pad to their blind students to go and really understand how can we leverage this technology in training of blind students. And so this is the first full national system that is picking this up, and we'll be looking forward to seeing what it is that we're going to be able to learn from them as they roll out through this through the dot pad through their schools for the blind. And then the last one is the Jordan Rural School for the Blind in Amman, where they are using it in science education. And we're talking about using the dot pad to learn about physics concepts by using tactile diagrams to learn particle diagrams, to learn the differences on how solids, gases, and liquids, differentiate themselves in this type of format. And the teachers are going to be able to create and store materials for the students to be able to access on their own, as well as other educators to be able to pick up. So it's going to be a great way of leveraging the dot pad capabilities in physics and other STEM-related content that just actually, as a person that loves physics, I'm looking very much forward to just seeing how this ends up coming up. So definitely more to come with these, and we'll be sharing more as information comes out. So, Dave?
So what does all of this add up to? Well, firstly, tactile access is becoming practical rather than just theoretical. The DotPad X obviously is a strong example of that, with its combination of tactile graphics and multi-line braille in a portable device. Secondly, AI becomes genuinely useful when it helps turn visual structure into tactile understanding. That's the real promise behind projects like Dot Vista and the wider, AI story. What is the message that you're hoping to convey with an image, and how can AI help with the process of transcribing that into a meaningful tactile experience? And the third thing is, of course, tactile access is expanding into more settings through the creation of projects like the LG Kiosk, which puts Braille in more physical locations, and also everyday Braille labeling through products like the Nemonic Dot Braille label printer. So that's the real message, I think, from Dot at CSUN this year. It's putting more tactile access into more places for more people in more meaningful ways. So whether you're coming at this from an education, rehabilitation, workplace accessibility, product design, or public service, or simply a belief that tactile access matters, I hope that this recap has given you a sense of where things are going from Dot. And we would be delighted to hear any questions or comments that you have. What excites me mostly about this is not single feature, but possibility. Possibility of a student being able to explore a graph, the possibility for a professional to understand a presentation, or maybe even the possibility of that family who came to the booth who were able to share the drawing, or the possibility of a deafblind person reading a message and saying, well, they sure do. So thank you very much for your time and attention, and we look forward to hearing your questions.
So we don't have questions yet, but we do have a comment from Derry. Derry, thank you so much. And I'm going to read it to all of you because I think it's a great testament of the power of DotPad. So Derry says, no question, really just wanted to say well done. I have my DotPad X now since February 11th, and my reading speed has really gone very fast. In fact, I just read my first Kindle book. Many thanks. So thank you, Derry, for sharing that with us.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you, Derry, because we have heard this from other DotPad customers, how having that multi-line capability, whether you're reading from Kindle or perhaps you're using an app like Easy Reader from Dolphin, the ability to read 8 lines of Braille at a time can really dramatically help with fluency when you haven't got to press a button after each line. And certainly we were told that, by your message really kind of echoes the message that we heard from many DotPad customers at CSUN about how that multi-line makes a difference. And as much as the stuff around AI is really exciting, and we're doing a lot of research, as you've heard, and trials, and we've developed some apps that we're testing. Actually, when people say to me, Dave, what is it you personally do with your DotPad? It is reading. It is that multi-line reading in Kindle for me. But everybody's different, and I'm really keen to hear from everyone about how you are using your DotPad. So you've got the Dot team online and ready, willing, and able to answer your questions. What I might do, Tim, at the risk of putting you on the spot, is maybe invite you to share were there any standout moments for you from the time we spent together at CSUN, either from our presentations or on the booth or partner meetings?
So, Dave, yes, I definitely had two good standout moments. And one of them was talking with members of the deafblind community. And one of the first questions they asked me is they're looking at the DotPad for how can they use it to teach individuals tactile print. So going different from learning Braille, learning what tactile print characters are. And I harken back to when I was learning Braille, going from sighted to blind later in life. That that was one that I've always imagined around the DotPad, is having that capabilities of learning Braille that way. But then hearing from their requests of going and teaching students how to read tactile print as one of those ways to access signage and stuff like that, I was like, yes, you can. And being able to take out Dot Explorer really quickly and just show what that was like to experience both Braille and tactile print, as well as the upcoming Salviz update that will bring DotPad connection to the Braille Sense lineup, was just two ways of just saying, it's like, wow, that just caught me off guard, where it's like, yeah, there's a huge need for this to be able to do it. And DotPad is a wonderful way of, showcasing and teaching folks how to learn tactile print, not just Braille. And then one of the other ones, and you kind of already, kind of kicked off with it initially when talking about what JJ and the AT guys are doing, is talking with developers about the software development kit that's publicly available on GitHub, and just how people want to use it, how people would like to use it, creating your own games, creating your own solutions. because this is where I really do love the dot pad, its capabilities, as it's being this device that is a display that will do what you want it to do, provided you know how to, do the coding and scripting in order to make it happen. And hearing all the different ways. So like Dr. Mankoff and Carlos, what they're doing with Accessible CAD is just phenomenal as someone that loves 3D graphics and used to be able to do 3D graphics that, I could see a day in the time in the future where, I might be able to use that, use a dot pad for that capabilities for creating games. I'm a huge gamer. And so just being able to do simple games to other types of more expansive games in a tactile format with my kids is a lot of fun. And this is thanks to the proof of concept of what JJ is doing, and just some of the other conversations we have had with folks of what they would want to use the dot pad for, and just knowing that they can develop it. So those are kind of my standout ones on that. More
Yeah.
there.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. We do have several raised hands and several questions. So, Tracy, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name, Mosso. You have the first raised hand if you want to unmute yourself and please speak your question. I'd love to hear from you.
Hi, yeah, my name, that was pretty close for my name. I have two questions. One, can the dot pad be used with Android devices? And two, in order to read something, does it have to be hooked up to something, or can you download like a knitting pattern or a book onto it and then take it away, the dot pad, and read with it?
Right now, DotPad is a display, and so you have to display content from another device. So you send content to it either via USB or via Bluetooth. That's the situation today. But we've definitely heard that request before. DotPad itself doesn't really have any internal storage as such, but we are actively researching that. So watch this space. On Android support, we absolutely hear that, and we're very keen for that to come as well, because of course we already have great support with a couple of screen readers in Windows and on iOS, and we definitely need Android. So yeah, we're talking with Google, but you're very welcome to reach out to Google as well and ask them to add multi-line support in TalkBack. I don't believe TalkBack supports any multi-line Braille products at this point, but we would really love them to.
Thank you, Tracy. The second question, the second raised hand is Andrew Smith. So please unmute yourself, Andrew, and ask your question.
Thanks. I got two questions for you. First one about the dot pad. Do you think there will ever be a dot pad with a keyboard? What's kind of putting me off a little bit about this right now is that there's no way to input information. So you're able to read anything, but if you're using it with a phone or something like that, you have to have either a third device now, a keyboard, or the phone kind of has to be nearby also. The other thing I was wondering about with your mnemonic label solution, what's the advantage of using that over it's like a $10 Slate and Stylus? Like, why would I need this?
Okay, so the first question then, yeah, you're right. At the moment, if you want to do input, you would then generally do that on the device that you're connected to. So in my case, for example, I'm doing Braille screen input on iOS. Somebody else might be using their QWERTY keyboard to input on Windows. You can, I understand, use the Orbit Writer keyboard in conjunction with DotPad. Tim, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, no, that's going to be the main ways. Like you, Dave, I'm a prolific Braille screen input as well as a Braille keyboard input, which is a fun way of turning any external keyboard into a Percocell input method by using VOY on any Apple device. But other than that, yeah, it would require external and not on device
Yeah.
at the present time.
But it's a fair point, Andrew, that the current dot pad has navigation keys, and then for input you would use a keyboard either on the host device or something like Orbit Writer. To your second question about the Braille label printer, so obviously for an individual, like something like a handheld, analog Braille labeling device may well be a more appropriate solution, right? If you already know Braille and you've got the tactile skills and the Braille knowledge to create that and the time, of course, to create those Braille labels yourself, then actually for you, maybe an analog solution might be good. The printer really solves the problem for those who don't know any Braille, because you're able to just write that in text and then the app will translate that into a range of languages. I think there's around 100 languages supported. You can have uncontracted or contracted Braille. You can use your voice, or you can just type it. So you don't need to know any Braille. The app will let you preview it, though. So if you do know some Braille, you can preview that in the app before you send it to the printer. And then also the printer allows you to use a software development kit, so it can be integrated with existing solutions. So like at a checkout or a dispensary, where you have a piece of information on another device that you want to put onto a Braille label to give to somebody, you're able to do that in one hit without, having to know Braille or do that, kind of manually yourself. So I think it's about giving options and choices and bringing Braille to more context and ensuring that those who perhaps don't know Braille are able to create it really easily. So great questions.
We have, Dave, another question related to Nemonic Printer. And the question is, can you talk more about Nemonic Printer, please? What formats and materials does it support? What's the process for preparing and printing labels on it? And maybe before we answer this question, I happen to have a prototype of a Nemonic Printer that I can show you. So I'm holding it in my hand. It's a square box. It's about 4.5 inches wide by 4.5 inches tall, and it's about 2.5 inches deep. So it's quite small. I'm not sure how much it weighs, but I'm easily holding it with my hand, and it's not heavy. It does have it comes in a very light kind of gray color. It has its name in Braille. It says Nemonic Dot Printer. It's a little bit hard to see. But it also in Braille and in text, and it just easily opens. You can replace your cartridge very easily, and it's a great little device that could be both desktop and portable. Like I said, I'm holding it in one hand. It probably weighs maybe a pound or so, maybe even less.
And there are two types of cartridge going to be available. So there will be a plastic labeling tape, which, if you felt like Dymo tape, feels a bit like that. There will also be a metal tape as well, which is more durable for built environment applications like seat numbers, door numbers, anywhere where you're going to need a more permanent Braille label. And so you load your cartridge into the printer and obviously close the door, and then you power that on, and then there's a forward, like a form feed button that will engage the tape so that it's lined up ready for printing. And then you can, at the moment, send content from the app. So there is an app, a free app on iOS or on Android, currently in testing. So we're very much in a kind of a pre-launch phase at the moment, but that app will be freely available from the App Store or the Play Store. You download the app, and then you can prepare content in the app either with your voice or by typing. You'll have the ability to save favorites. So if you have regular labels that you need to make for different things, then you'll be able to do that. Also, there will be a process for integrating the printer with existing solutions, as I mentioned, a dispensary or a checkout, somewhere like that. And so the content will then be sent to the Braille printer, which will perform the embossing onto the tape, which will then feed through the device and come out of the right-hand side. And then when the printing is finished, you simply press down on the top right-hand corner of the printer, which will activate the cutter, and that will cut the tape off at the end of the label, and then you can peel the back off, and then you can stick that on wherever you want, whatever kind of surface you need to apply that to. And if you are interested in the Braille printer and you would like a demo or you would like more information, then you can drop us an email, info@dottincorp.com, info@dottincorp.com, and we would be happy to talk with you.
And since we're talking about the printer, there is, I think, one last question related to the printer before we go back to DotPad X. Could the Braille labeler accommodate Dymo tape?
So you would need to load the tape using one of the cartridges that I've just described. If you put like a roll of Dymo tape into the printer without the cartridge, then it's not going to feed through the device. So the cartridge is part of that kind of mechanism to allow the tape to kind of roll smoothly through the printer.
And for those of you who are sighted on our call, I'm holding it in my hand. So there's basically a drawer that you just press on it and it opens up on the printer and you can easily load the cartridge in the printer.
Yeah, I think Nemonic, they call it a cover. I call it a door, and we'll finalize that terminology, I'm sure. But yeah, it's kind of like a door. It's sort of hinged, so you press on it, and there's a little spring kind of opening, and then you put the cartridge inside that contains the tape, and then that tape then winds through the printer.
Okay, and there are a lot of questions actually, so I'm
Yep.
glad to see that guys at this talking. So please keep them coming. So going back to DotPad X, can we use it for maps?
You can use DotPad X for maps. Now, how you get those maps on there will vary a little bit depending on what you want to do. At the moment, the primary way to get a map on there would be via .canvas. So if you had a JPEG, for example, of a map, you could import that into .canvas and you could have it rendered on the DotPad. But I think as we go forward and as we've heard, some of the work on AI, clearly, there is an appetite, I think, for integrating DotPad with a more generalized mapping solution, and we're having some of those conversations. They're absolutely happening behind the scenes right now. So there is a popular accessible mapping solution in the blind community with whom we are having a conversation, so we can try and make that a little bit more seamless. So you can have kind of maps on a sort of an a la carte basis at the moment through .canvas. But I think in the fullness of time, we want to be able to offer something a little bit more generalized so that you can choose your own maps as and when you want them.
What is the current version of the software? I've been trying to update using all methods and have been unsuccessful. Any suggestions?
So when you say the so I'm not sure where the questions come from. So when you say the software, can you be more specific? Do you mean the DotPad firmware, or do you mean one of the apps, or perhaps one of the screen readers that we support? Might be useful just to know the detail on that.
Yeah, Tamara, do you want to unmute yourself? I also see that you raised your hand and clarify your question.
All right.
Yeah,
Hello.
go ahead. We can hear you.
I think she
Go
might
ahead,
be-
Tamara. We can hear you.
She's muted herself again, I think, actually.
Oh.
There you go.
to update using both Bluetooth and using the, connecting to my computer. None of those work. And I have a colleague, we both working for either of us. We
Right, and
cannot update.
this is for DotPad X.
Yes.
Okay. Tim, as I'm going to bring you in on this question. So there's only to date been one update that has been published, I think
Yes.
about a month ago, and this is to
Yes.
address this low power issue. It doesn't have any other changes, and maybe we need to perhaps work with you offline to figure this out, Tim.
Yes, tomorrow. If you would shoot me a message and I could follow up with you offline to go through, because when you're updating the DotPad, the
Hmm.
method requires a USB cable to be
Hmm.
used and going through the website. Google Chrome works the best with doing it. And yeah, it's one that, we can follow up
Yeah,
offline
I'm
with
using
it.
Google Chrome. Both of us are. So give me the email address we should write to.
TIMOTHY at
Uh-huh.
Dotincorp, DOTINCORP.com.
Okay, we'll do that.
And
My other quick question is regarding the pneumatic printer. Will you be able to just print any label that you want?
Yes. So
Okay, great.
it will be a
Oh, and
single
what's the
line
price
label.
point? That was my second question. Okay, and what's the price point for the labeler, the printer?
It's going to be around, it's just going to be under $1,000, like around
Okay.
$995. We still need to confirm that, but it's about $1,000, just a tiny bit less.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have a comment from Adele. DotPad, a multi-line braille display and note taker, has its own driver to allow it to be used anywhere like a traditional computer and could be connected with the mnemonic Humphrey, I would assume it says hands-free printer, with which files could be printed anywhere, as the DotPad is to be used anywhere like a mobile telephone, with which internet can be used on the go, or a portable video game console like Sony's PlayStation Vita.
Okay, I'm not sure I fully understand the question.
I
However,
think it's a comment.
yeah, it's worth clarifying. DotPad doesn't connect directly to the Nemonic printer. DotPad will connect with your phone or your tablet or your laptop and will work with your screen reader and a bunch of apps. The printer will have its own app, and so what you can do is run VoiceOver on iOS, for example, and that will connect to DotPad, and then you're able to go into the printer app, and when you prepare a label to be printed using the mnemonic printer, you can preview that on DotPad. So that's the way in which you might use those products together, but they are really quite separate products, generally speaking, and they don't connect to each other directly.
Yeah, and there's another question from Adele, and I'm not sure I fully understand that one either. It says dot Braille is unique compared to what I've been using for years, question mark. So Adele, if you want to clarify, feel free to
That's
unmute yourself
yeah.
and
I could probably help with this. So it is
okay.
unique compared with previous Braille displays. So I think the big difference to understand with the dot technology is, firstly, when you touch a traditional Braille display, you're often touching the end of a long component that extends inside the device, a bit like playing a piano key, for example. The dot cells are much more compact. They're like Legos, I guess, so you can stack them vertically and horizontally. The dot Braille feels quite different in that it's solid Braille. It doesn't have that spongy, springy sensation that maybe you might have experienced with other Braille technology in the past. And the other characteristic of the dot technology is it's scalable. So the more of it we make, the more affordable it will become. And it's very low power as well. So very little power is required to keep the dots in the raised position. So once the dot is up, it's up. So it's only when you refresh it that a little bit of power is drawn. So low power, compact, scalable. Those are some of the characteristics of the dot Braille cells.
Great. Thank you, Dave. We have a question about graphics from Chris. It says, "Hi, this is Chris. Love my dot pad. Quick question which I've sent via email. Some time ago, I checked out the graphics library, and many of the labels on the graphics are in Korean. Will these be translated soon so that I know what graphic it is? Also, I love reading Kindle books too and exploring tactile graphics. Thanks for such an awesome device."
Oh, thank you, Chris. Lovely to hear from you. We have recently upgraded the Braille translation engine that is in Dot Canvas so that we can take advantage of all the language support that there is in LibLouis, both uncontracted and contracted Braille. But if there is specific content there, Chris, that you want English labels for, please do let us know. info@dotincorp.com, and we can look at that for you. And then was there a question about Kindle?
He was just saying that he loves reading his books on Kindle.
Me too. So we've got just a couple of minutes left. So Anna, I'm just going to check in with you how we're doing for questions, and then I might ask Louise to kind of wrap up with how to kind of stay in touch.
We have 3 more questions about the Braille printer, and we still have a few raised hands.
Right.
So maybe I will read all 3 questions about Braille printer for a potentially quick answer.
Yep.
And I think it will be. So the first question is the metal very thin on the metal ribbon for the printer? The second question is related to how you generate the text to be printed. So it says, so you can't just write a note or whatever text with a mainstream app, then use the iOS Share extension and print it in Braille. It has to be managed through the proprietary app. And the answer to this question is yes, you have to use a proprietary app that's fully accessible, very easy to use, and free. And then the third question is regarding the Braille label printer. How long are the cartridges size? Is it compatible with other tapes?
So the cartridges will be specific to the Braille printer. We haven't published specific specs on those, but I would expect that information to be announced shortly. So we'll definitely keep you posted on that. The metal tape is quite thin, obviously, because it needs to fit through the printer, and it also needs to be able to coil round in the cartridge. But of course, the benefit of the metal is that the Braille is robust and more rugged, and we would expect that to, be more durable in a built environment application. In terms of the app, when you're composing your content, you can either write in an edit field in the Nemonic app. You can also paste into that field, so you can select some text elsewhere on your device, copy it to the clipboard, and paste it in there. There will be support for favorites as well, so if you've got labels that you make frequently. Voice input will also be supported. And I appreciate the suggestion of support for the share sheet, and I will pass that back to the team. Thank you very much indeed. Right, I think unless you tell me otherwise, Anna, I'm going to ask Louise to kind of wrap up and how you can stay in touch with Dot and hear about what else we're up to and be in contact.
We do have 3 more raised hands, but since
Right.
we're out of time, when Dave shares how to contact us, perhaps you can send us email with your questions, and we'll be happy to address it offline.
All right, Louise.
Okay, great. So our email address, just starting there for anyone who wants to ask a question after today's event, is info@dotincorp.com. So if you send an email to there, then we can make sure that a member of the team here today gets back to you straight away. So we also are active on social media. We have a LinkedIn page and a Facebook page that we're updating every week. So if you're not already following us on one of those platforms, then please do check us out. Our handle on both is .inc. So that enables you to stay up to date on where we're going to be, events that are coming up, and any product announcements that we're making as well. We also send out a monthly e-newsletter. So it may be that some of you heard about this event via our e-newsletter. So again, if you'd like to receive that, if you're not already doing so, you can send us an email and we can add you to our mailing list. We are running these webinars monthly. Typically, we did take a break while CSUN was on. So you can also register to attend future events. And lastly, we have a monthly podcast, and our host, Dave Williams, is here. So we are always looking for interesting subjects and people to talk to. So if you think that could be you, then again, please get in touch. And we love to talk to the community about ideas you have for that podcast as well.
Thank you very much, Louise. Thank you to Anna for fielding the questions, and also to Timothy Hornick, also in the US. To all of you, we really appreciate all your support. We will be back next month with another webinar, but from myself, Dave Williams, and the rest of the team at DOT, have a great week. And until next time, bye for now.